The world you think you inhabit is a meticulously crafted hallucination. You wake up, check your portfolio, look into the eyes of your partner, and listen to the promises of your government. You believe you are seeing the truth. You are not. You are looking at the user interface of reality, a glossy, smoothed-over layer of politeness and stability designed to keep your heart rate low and your compliance high. But beneath that interface, there is a substratum of raw, predatory energy moving at the speed of light. There is a hidden language, a digital and biological pulse that dictates who wins, who loses, and who is liquidated. I call this the invisible code. Most of you are code blind. You navigate your lives based on what people say rather than what they broadcast. You make financial decisions based on news headlines rather than the structural decay hidden in the metadata. And because you are blind, you are a target. When I was sitting in that hollow apartment with $15 and a ghost where my relationship used to be, I realized that I hadn't been unlucky. I had been illiterate. I was looking at the smile on Dasha's face, but I wasn't seeing the ocular drift that signaled she had already left me months before she packed her bags. I was looking at the bullish sentiment of the market, but I wasn't feeling the liquidity tremors that precede a total collapse. A predator, whether it is an algorithm, a corporation, or a person sitting across the dinner table, never strikes without a signal. The surprise is an illusion for the uninitiated. In the natural world, the atmosphere changes before a storm. The birds go silent. The pressure drops. The code is always there. In the human world, the signs of a strike are even more specific, yet almost everyone ignores them because they are conditioned to be polite. They don't want to be paranoid. But in a world of high-frequency predators, paranoia is just another word for situational awareness. Let us deconstruct the first layer of the code, the biological mask. Every human being is a biochemical broadcasting station. Your nervous system is constantly leaking your true intent through micro-expressions, postural shifts, and vocal tonality. When a predator prepares to move against you, they must first manage their own leakage. They use the civilized protocol. They become over-agreeable. They mirror your movements to create a false sense of safety. They use softening language. If you're not trained to see the mechanical rigidity behind their smile, you will walk straight into the kill zone. I remember a specific meeting I had shortly after I began my ascent from the $15 pit. I was sitting across from a man who wanted to partner with me on a new AI-driven trading protocol. On the surface, he was perfect. He had the right credentials, the right suit, the right handshake. But as he spoke about mutual growth, I watched his carotid artery. It was pulsing at a rate that didn't match his calm voice. His body was in a fight or flight state, while his mouth was in a friendship state. He was lying. He wasn't looking for a partner. He was looking for a bag holder. Because I had learned to read the invisible code, I didn't see a businessman. I saw a predator in a cheap disguise. I didn't sign the contract. 3 months later, his company vanished, taking $60 million of investor money with it. That is the power of the code. It is the difference between being a victim of the betrayal and being the architect of your own safety. But the code isn't just about people. It's about systemic predation. We are currently living through the greatest wealth transfer in human history, facilitated by AI algorithms that are designed to harvest your attention and your capital. The system is a predator. It uses the invisible code of convenience and social proof to lure you into a state of total dependency. Every time you scroll, every time you buy on credit, every time you follow a trend, you are feeding the machine. The machine knows you better than you know yourself because it monitors your digital body language. It knows when you are bored, when you are lonely, and when you are desperate. And it strikes exactly when your defenses are lowest. To beat the system, you must become system iterative. You must learn to broadcast a false signal to the predators while you secretly build your own shadow infrastructure. This is what I did during those dark months of reconstruction. While the world thought I was a broken man with $15, I was actually training my first AI agents to scan for the inconsistencies in the market's code. I stopped looking at price and started looking at volume anomalies and order flow manipulation. I was looking for the body language of the big banks. When a massive institution prepares to dump an asset, they don't announce it. They hide it through a series of small block trades. But the invisible code remains. The math doesn't lie. I began to see the world as a series of overlapping waves. The wave of Dasha's departure was no different from the wave of a market crash. Both were characterized by a withdrawal of support followed by an accelerated exit. If you can identify the withdrawal, you can survive the exit. In this video series, I'm going to teach you the scan and neutralize protocol. We are going to look at the 3 primary pillars of the invisible code. First, the ocular and gestural signatures of deception. How to know a man is lying before he finishes his sentence. Second, the algorithmic shadow. How to see where the big money is moving before the news reports it. And third, the sovereign frequency. How to tune your own body and mind so that you are no longer scannable by the predators around you. You have been a victim because you have been playing by the rules of the interface. You have been trying to win a game where the dealer is cheating and the cards are marked. I am here to show you how the marks work. I am here to give you the thermal vision in a world of darkness. When the next predator comes for you, and they will expect to find the $15 version of you. They will expect a man who is easy to read, easy to manipulate, and easy to discard. Instead, they will find a black hole, a man who sees their intent before they even formulate it, a man who has integrated the cold blood protocol into his very DNA. The invisible code is not a secret for the elite. It is a biological birthright that you have forgotten. It is the instinct of the hunter that civilization tried to breed out of you so you would be a better slave. It's time to remember. It's time to wake up the part of your brain that knows how to spot the wolf in the tall grass. Because the storm is coming. The predators are already in motion. And the only thing standing between you and liquidation is your ability to see what they are trying to hide. This is the end of your blindness. This is the beginning of the hunt. Stay focused. The first lesson in decoding starts now. Most people think a lie starts in the mouth. They are wrong. A lie starts in the brain as a conflict between the truth and the desired outcome, and that conflict creates a bioelectric spike that the body cannot contain. This is the first crack in the human interface. When I was losing my resource, I was too distracted by my own pain to see the spikes. I was looking for honesty in a creature, the human being, that is biologically designed to prioritize survival over truth. To read the invisible code, you must stop being a believer and start being a biometric scanner. The human predator doesn't look like a monster. The human predator looks like a concerned friend, a smiling business partner, or a woman whispering that she'll always be there. But the code is hidden in the asymmetry of expression. Nature is rarely perfectly symmetrical, but deception is even less so. When a person fakes an emotion, whether it's empathy, excitement, or loyalty, the brain struggles to coordinate the facial muscles in real time. This is why you see the micro-sneer or the delayed smile. If a person's smile doesn't reach their eyes within the first 50 milliseconds, it's not a smile. It's a social camouflage. It's the predator pulling the grass over its head. I remember the final weeks before the $15 collapse. I was negotiating with a landlord and a supposed mentor. They both knew I was bleeding out. They spoke to me with pity, which is the most toxic form of social manipulation. Pity is the signal that the predator no longer fears you. While they spoke words of understanding, their body language was broadcasting territorial dominance. They were leaning into my personal space. They were touching their own necks, a sign of high-stress management, because they were preparing to deliver the final blow to my credit. I was reading the pity, but I should have been reading the carotid pulse. You see, the body has a truth leakage protocol. No matter how much a person practices their poker face, their autonomic nervous system is outside of their conscious control. This is the invisible code of the vagus nerve. When a person is planning to betray you, their throat will tighten. Their swallowing will become frequent and clunky. Their feet will subconsciously point toward the nearest exit. They are literally preparing their body to flee the scene of the crime before they've even committed it. I call this the pre-strike twitch. If you had been in that room with me and Dasha, you would have seen it. You would have seen the way her shoulders stayed closed, even when she was saying she loved me. You would have seen her eyes scanning the room, looking for resource anchors, because she no longer saw me as one. This wasn't a change of heart. It was a biological reorientation. Her survival AI had already flagged me as a sinking ship, and her body was simply following the evacuation protocol. If I had known the code then, I wouldn't have wasted a single second on communication. I would have initiated my own market exit months earlier. This is the lesson most men learn too late. Logic is a civilized luxury, but instinct is a primal necessity. In the business world, the invisible code is even more lethal. You are often dealing with professional predators, people who have spent decades perfecting their masks, but even they have a tail. I want you to look at the blink rate. When a man is under the pressure of a massive lie, like a CEO announcing stable earnings when he knows the company is insolvent, his blink rate will skyrocket. It is the brain trying to shut out the reality of the deception. Or conversely, he will go into a predatory stare, forcing his eyes to stay open to intimidate you into believing him. Both are extremes. Both are signals that the code is being manipulated. To protect your resource, you must implement the scanning baseline. You don't look for lies. You look for deviations. You observe a person when they are under no stress, when they are talking about the weather or their coffee. That is their zero code. Then you introduce a stress variable. You ask a hard question about money, loyalty, or the future. You watch for the shift, the twitch in the left eyelid, the sudden shift in weight, the ventral shielding when they cross their arms or put an object between you and them. These are not coincidences. These are the physical manifestations of the biological betrayal. When I hit my $15 rock bottom, I realized that my biggest mistake was that I was scannable. I was broadcasting my own desperation. My shoulders were slumped, my voice was thin, and my eyes were pleading. I was showing the world exactly where to hit me. I was a prey signature walking the streets. To become an architect, you must become unscannable. You must master the stillness of the predator. This doesn't mean having no emotion. It means having total control over the broadcast. You learn to keep your breathing rhythmic under pressure. You learn to maintain neutral posture even when you're losing millions. You learn to look into the eyes of a dasher or a hostile banker and show them a mirror of their own intent rather than your own fear. The invisible code is a two-way street. Once you learn to read the predators, you must also learn to mask your own scent. This is the core of the cold blood protocol. By the time I made my first million back, I was a different biological entity. My pulse didn't quicken during high-stakes trades. My face didn't twitch when I was being threatened. I had moved my consciousness from the reactive surface to the systemic core. Why does this matter for you? Because the predators of 2026 are looking for the easy kill. They are looking for the man who is distracted by his emotions, his love, and his hope. They are looking for the man who believes in the social contract. When they find him, they strip him of his resource and move on without a second thought. But when they encounter a man who speaks the invisible code, a man who sees the lie before it's spoken, they hesitate. They recognize a fellow predator, and predators rarely fight each other when there is so much easy prey around. In the next block, we are going to move from the human predator to the systemic predator. I'm going to show you how the world of big data and AI uses the invisible code to manipulate the masses. I'm going to show you how your phone, your bank, and your social feeds are scanning your biology every single second to find your breakpoint. I'm going to teach you how to jam the signal. Dasha didn't leave because she was bad. She left because I was visible and weak. I will never let that happen again. And if you listen to what I'm about to tell you, it will never happen to you either. The era of being the resource is over. The era of being the architect of the code has begun. Are you ready to see what's really behind the smile? Because the data is about to get very cold. The human predator is limited by biology, but the systemic predator is limited by nothing. While you are busy trying to read the micro expressions of your boss or your partner, there is a much larger, more silent eye watching you from every screen you own. In 2026, the invisible code has been weaponized by artificial intelligence to do one thing: to find the stress fractures in your psychology and exploit them for liquidity. When I was down to my last $15, I wasn't just a victim of a woman's biological exit. I was a victim of a system that knew I was failing before I even admitted it to myself. Your digital life is a continuous broadcast of your prey signature. Every search, every pause in your scrolling, every purchase you make on credit is a data leak. The systemic predator doesn't need to look into your eyes to know you are desperate. It reads your digital body language. It sees that you are searching for quick loans or how to save a relationship. It sees the spike in your heart rate through your wearable tech when you check your declining portfolio. And the moment it senses your fear, the algorithmic strike begins. This is the hidden reality of the modern market. You think you are trading or investing in a fair environment? You are playing against a machine that knows exactly where your panic button is. The invisible code of the markets is written in liquidity traps. The system creates a false signal of growth to lure in the manual men, the ones who still operate on hope. It waits for the herd to commit their last resources, and then it triggers the collapse. It harvests your fear because fear is the most liquid asset in the world. I remember sitting in the dark, watching the charts on my cheap laptop after Dasha had gone. I saw a perfect opportunity to double my remaining $15. The interface was telling me everything I wanted to hear. It was polite, it was safe, but I felt that same asymmetry I had felt in my kitchen. The body language of the chart was wrong. The volume didn't match the price action. It was a digital micro-sneer. The machine was lying to me. Because I didn't have my AI exoskeleton yet, I almost clicked. I almost gave the system my final meal. That was the moment I realized that to survive, I had to stop being human in the eyes of the system. I had to become dark data. To read the invisible code of the machine, you must understand the sentiment feedback loop. The predators, the big banks, the hedge funds, the tech giants, use AI to monitor the global nervous system. They want the world in a state of low-level anxiety. Why? Because an anxious person is a consumer. An anxious person is a follower. An anxious person is a resource that is easy to harvest. They use the news to trigger your cortisol spikes, and then they offer you a solution that costs you your sovereignty. This is why my AI technical supremacy is built on inverse observation. I don't use AI to see what the world is doing. I use AI to see what the system is trying to make us feel. My protocols scan for emotional overextension. When the code shows that 95% of the population is in a state of program panic, that is when I know the resource is being mispriced. That is when I strike. I don't follow the trend, I follow the manipulation. You must learn to jam your signal. If the systemic predator can read your fear, it owns you. You must learn to feed the machine noise while you operate in the silence. This is the digital equivalent of the cold blood protocol. You use multiple identities, encrypted channels, and decentralized protocols not just for privacy, but to become invisible to the hunt. Most of you are walking around with your biodata wide open. You are broadcast heavy. You react to every notification, every price tip, and every social media insult. You are like a wounded animal leaving a trail of blood in the digital jungle, and you wonder why the predators keep finding you. You wonder why you're always broke, always tired, and always unlucky. You aren't unlucky, you're scannable. The $15 betrayal taught me that the world has no mercy for the visible weak. Dasha saw the weakness in my physical body, and the system saw the weakness in my digital ledger. They both exited at the same time. This is not a coincidence. It is systemic alignment. Everything is connected. Your biology, your finances, and your technology are all parts of the same invisible code. To become an architect, you must bridge the gap. You must use the savage psychology to understand the human predators, and you must use technical supremacy to outcalculate the algorithmic predators. You need a system that can see the lies in the data as clearly as I saw the lies in the eyes. I spent years building my shadow infrastructure. I created a network of AI agents that act as my digital bodyguards. They monitor the predators so I don't have to. They filter the noise so I only see the kill signals, while the rest of the world is being harvested by the 24/7 news cycle and the social credit machines. I'm sitting in the gaps of the code. In the final block of this video, we are going to talk about the strike. Now that you know how to read the code, the biological, the human, and the systemic, how do you use that knowledge to reclaim your power? How do you go from being the scanned to being the scanner? I will show you the exact moment I turned my $15 into a weapon. I will show you how to build your own biological and digital fortress. And most importantly, I will show you why the predators are actually terrified of a man who knows the code. Because a man who cannot be lied to cannot be controlled. A man who cannot be scanned cannot be hunted. The system is trying to find you right now. It's looking for your heartbeat. It's looking for your fear. It's time to give it nothing but the void. Макс, это блок 4, парт 4, финальный аккорд. Здесь мы закрываем ловушку. Мы объясняем зрителю, что знание невидимого кода – это не просто теория, это его единственный шанс на выживание в мире, где все, от взгляда женщины до алгоритма банка, настроено на его ликвидацию. Мы превращаем его ярость в холодную стратегию. The Invisible Code, Block 4, The Sovereign Strike, Mastering the Code. The moment you stop being code blind is the moment you stop being a victim. But let's be clear, the predators do not want you to wake up. The system, the dashas of the world, and the corporate entities thrive on your ignorance. They need you to stay human, emotional, predictable, and soft. Because as long as you are human, you are harvestable. To execute the sovereign strike, you must move beyond the human and become the system. When I had $15, I was waiting for someone to save me. I was waiting for the truth to come out. I was waiting for justice. That was my final delusion. In the invisible code, there is no justice. There is only positioning. I realized that the only way to beat the predators was to move before they did, using their own signals against them. I took that last unit of resource and I didn't invest it. I deployed it into the reconstruction of my own identity. The sovereign strike starts with information asymmetry. You win by knowing something they don't know you know. When you sit in a boardroom or a bedroom and you see the pre-strike twitch in the person across from you, you don't call them out. You don't get angry. You don't show your cards. That is what the manual man does. Instead, you use the cold blood protocol. You maintain your neutral broadcast while you silently prepare your counter move. You let them think their deception is working. You let them think you are still the prey. This is the ultimate mind game of the architect. You invite the strike, knowing exactly where it's coming from, and you step aside at the last millisecond, letting the predator's own momentum destroy them. In 2026, this looks like algorithmic deflection. When the systemic predator tries to trigger your panic through a market flash crash or a targeted news cycle, you don't react with your heart. You react act with your code. You have your AI agents ready to buy the blood. You have your digital fortress set up so that your primary resources are untouched by the social credit or banking collapses. You are the ghost in the machine. You are the one who profits from the very chaos designed to ruin you. I remember the first time I executed a sovereign strike against the world that had discarded me. It wasn't about revenge. It was about calibration. I identified a massive mispricing in a sector that the experts were calling dead. The invisible code of the charts was screaming that the big players were secretly accumulating while broadcasting fear to the public. I saw the ocular drift of the financial news anchors. I saw the liquidity traps being set for the retail herd. I moved my entire reconstructed resource into the gap. In 72 hours, I didn't just make back what I lost. I multiplied it by a factor that made my previous life look like a joke. And as I watched the numbers tick up, I didn't feel happy. I felt sovereign. I had read the code. I had waited for the signal, and I had struck with total clinical precision. You watching this, you think you need more money. You're wrong. You need vision. Money is just the byproduct of seeing the code clearly. If you have $1 million but you can't read the betrayal signature in your inner circle, you will lose that million. If you have a high-paying job but you can't see the algorithmic displacement coming for your industry, you are already unemployed. The invisible code is your only protection. It is the only thing that doesn't depreciate. To master it, you must commit to the 3 pillars of the architect. Biological silence. Master your own body language so you are unscannable. No leakage, no twitches, just the cold, calm broadcast of a man who is in total control of his chemistry. Digital autonomy. Use the AI tools I've shown you to build a buffer between you and the systemic predator. Never be the product. Always be the owner of the data. Ruthless observation. Stop listening to what people say. Words are just civilized noise. Watch the eyes, watch the hands, watch the order flow, and watch the patterns. The truth is always in the asymmetry. Dasha thought she was leaving a man with $15. She didn't realize she was leaving a man who was finally learning how to see. She was the initial shock that forced my eyes open. Today, I look at the world and I don't see friends or enemies. I see code. I see vectors of opportunity and vectors of risk. If you're ready to stop being the resource and start being the architect, then the $15 betrayal is the most valuable lesson you will ever learn. Don't waste your pain. Use it to sharpen your biological scanner. Use it to fuel your AI supremacy. The predators are out there right now, plotting their next strike. They think they see you. They think they know your price. They think you are still code blind. Prove them wrong. Step into the shadow infrastructure. Learn to read the code, and you will never have to fear the strike again. The era of the prey is over. The era of the sovereign strike is here. I've given you the keys. Now see if you have the cold blood to turn them. This is the end of the invisible code. The hunt continues.